Let me ask you something, and I want you to answer this honestly, not for me, but for yourself. When was the last time you woke up in the morning and felt genuinely, completely, unreservedly rested? Not groggy, not reaching for coffee before your feet even hit the floor, not already calculating how many hours until you can go back to bed, but truly awake, energized, ready. If you're struggling to remember, you're not alone. According to data from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, 1 in 3 adults in the United States is chronically sleep deprived or reports persistent fatigue. But here is where it gets interesting and disturbing. A landmark study published in the journal Nature Reviews Neuroscience found that up to 73% of people experiencing chronic fatigue have perfectly normal results on standard blood panels. Normal TSH, normal hemoglobin, normal B12 on paper, and yet they are exhausted every single day. That means the vast majority of people dragging themselves through their lives, barely functioning, are being told by their doctors, everything looks fine. Maybe try to sleep more. Here's a referral to a therapist. This is not a sleep problem. This is a cellular energy production problem, and the two things could not be more different. What I'm going to show you today is the hidden biological mechanism, one that operates at the level of your mitochondria and your gut-brain axis, that is silently draining your energy reserves. And more importantly, I'm going to give you a precise, evidence-backed protocol that costs less than your morning coffee to implement. Stay with me. This might be the most important 15 minutes of health information you consume this year. Now, before I get into the physiology, I want you to understand something about the system you are operating inside. The modern healthcare model, and I say this as someone who spent years practicing inside it, is not designed around your wellness. It is designed around a billing code. Your doctor has, on average, 7 to 12 minutes with you per appointment. Chronic fatigue, as a presenting complaint, generates a diagnostic workup worth perhaps $180 in billable services. Meanwhile, a diagnosis of hypothyroidism generates a lifetime prescription patient worth thousands of dollars annually to the pharmaceutical supply chain. Nobody in a white coat is going to tell you this. There is no ICD-10 billing code for mitochondrial dysfunction secondary to nutritional depletion and chronic cortisol elevation. There is no reimbursement pathway for a physician who spends 45 minutes reviewing your circadian rhythm patterns and adrenal output. The incentive structure is built for throughput, volume, prescriptions written, referrals made. This is not an accusation against individual doctors, many of whom are genuinely compassionate, hardworking people trapped inside a broken machine. This is a structural critique of an industry that profits from managing chronic illness, not reversing it. The system profits from treatment. What I'm offering you today is the knowledge to not need treatment, and that, I'm afraid, is something the revenue model of modern medicine has very little interest in providing. Before I go any deeper into the science, and we are going to go deep today, I promise you that, I want to ask you a quick favor. This channel exists outside of the institutional framework I just described. No pharmaceutical sponsors, no hospital system affiliations. Just documented physiology, clinical experience, and a genuine belief that you deserve to understand your own body. We are currently working toward 100,000 subscribers, and every single one of those subscriptions represents a person who has chosen to invest in their own health literacy. If you are new here, hit that subscribe button right now. If you've been watching for a while and haven't liked this video yet, please do. It takes 2 seconds, and it is the single most powerful thing you can do to help this information reach the people who need it. All right, let's get into the biology, because this is where it gets fascinating. Let me introduce you to the real architecture of human energy, not the simplified cartoon version you see on supplement packaging. The actual cellular machinery that determines whether you feel alive or like you're moving through concrete. The mitochondrial energy crisis. Your body produces energy through a molecule called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. Every cell in your body, from your neurons to your cardiac muscle to the cells lining your gut, runs on ATP, and ATP is manufactured primarily inside structures called mitochondria. Now, here's what most people do not understand. Mitochondria are not fixed structures. They are dynamic organelles that respond to their environment. They respond to light exposure, to nutritional input, to oxygen availability, to inflammatory signaling, and to hormonal status. When any of these inputs become chronically disrupted, the mitochondria downregulate their output. They go into a kind of conservation mode. The clinical term for this is mitochondrial dysfunction. And the subjective experience of mitochondrial dysfunction is what most people simply call being tired. This is not a caffeine deficiency problem. This is not a willpower problem. This is a documented physiological reality. The HPA axis and cortisol dysregulation. Now let's add the second layer. Your body has a stress response system called the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis. The HPA axis. When you perceive stress, whether that's a genuine physical threat, a work deadline, a difficult relationship, or even the blue light from your phone at 11 p.m., your hypothalamus signals your pituitary gland, which signals your adrenal glands to release cortisol. Cortisol is not inherently bad. In its proper diurnal pattern, high in the morning to support waking, gradually declining through the day, it is essential for energy metabolism, immune modulation, and cognitive function. But when cortisol is chronically elevated, which it is in the vast majority of modern adults due to sleep disruption, dietary inflammatory load, and psychological stress, it begins to actively suppress mitochondrial function. Elevated cortisol reduces the transcription of PGC1 alpha, which is the master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis. In plain language, chronic stress literally tells your body to make fewer and less efficient energy factories. And it gets worse. Chronic cortisol elevation suppresses the vagus nerve, the 10th cranial nerve, the longest nerve in the autonomic nervous system, which regulates your heart rate, your digestion, your inflammatory response, and your sense of calm. When vagal tone is reduced, your body stays locked in sympathetic dominance. Fight or flight, all day, every day, burning through energy reserves it can never adequately replenish. You are trying to run a marathon while someone has their foot on your fuel line. The gut-energy connection. The third axis of this problem is your gut, specifically the health of your intestinal epithelium, the single-cell thick lining of your small intestine through which all nutrients must pass to reach your bloodstream. When the tight junctions of this epithelial barrier become compromised, a condition now extensively documented in the scientific literature as intestinal hyperpermeability, or colloquially leaky gut, several catastrophic things happen. First, lipopolysaccharides from gram-negative bacteria in your gut microbiome translocate into systemic circulation. These lipopolysaccharides trigger a sustained, low-grade inflammatory response, measurable via elevated serum IL-6, TNF-alpha, and C-reactive protein, that directly impairs mitochondrial electron transport chain function. Second, macronutrient absorption becomes erratic. Even if you are eating a nutritionally complete diet, a compromised epithelial barrier will fail to adequately absorb the magnesium, B vitamins, and CoQ10 precursors that your mitochondria require for optimal ATP synthesis. Third, and this is the part that astonishes most of my patients when I explain it, approximately 90% of your body's serotonin is synthesized in your gut by enterochromaffin cells. Serotonin is not just a mood molecule. It is a critical regulator of gut motility, sleep architecture, and energy homeostasis. When gut integrity is compromised, serotonin synthesis is disrupted. And when serotonin is dysregulated, your sleep quality collapses. And when your sleep quality collapses, your mitochondria never complete their overnight repair cycle. You are drinking energy through a broken glass. Now I need to address the myth that is keeping millions of people stuck. And this one is particularly insidious because it comes with a medical veneer that makes it seem credible. The myth is this: if you are tired, you need more iron. Every year, millions of people, disproportionately women, are told their fatigue is caused by iron deficiency anemia. They are prescribed iron supplements or told to eat more red meat, and for some of them, this helps temporarily. But for the vast majority, the underlying issue is never actually iron. And here is why. Serum ferritin, the storage form of iron measured on standard blood panels, has a reference range so wide it is clinically almost useless. The bottom of the normal range at many laboratories is 12 micrograms per liter. Many functional medicine practitioners will tell you that anything below 50 to 70 is functionally deficient for a woman who is symptomatic. But because it falls within the normal range, it goes unremarked. More importantly, and this is what most people miss entirely, iron cannot be utilized by your mitochondria without adequate copper, without adequate B2, riboflavin, and without adequate ceruloplasmin, the protein that regulates iron metabolism. You can supplement iron every day and remain profoundly fatigued if these cofactors are absent, which, in the modern diet, they very often are. But the deeper issue is this. In many cases of chronic fatigue, particularly in perimenopausal women and men over 45, the problem is not iron at all. It is impaired mitochondrial function, cortisol dysregulation, and gut barrier compromise, exactly as I described. Adding iron to that equation doesn't fix the generator. It just changes the fuel sitting unused beside a broken engine. This is not an iron problem, this is a mitochondrial and neuroendocrine problem. All right, here is the protocol. I want you to write this down or screenshot this section of the video because the precision of implementation matters enormously. This is a 5-component daily protocol designed to address all 3 axes of the energy deficit simultaneously: mitochondrial function, HPA axis regulation, and gut barrier integrity. Every ingredient is available at a grocery store or a basic pharmacy. The total daily cost is under 150. Component 1. The morning mitochondrial activator. Take 30 minutes before breakfast. 250 milliliters of warm filtered water, not hot, above 60 degrees denatures the active compounds. Juice of half a fresh lemon, approximately 15 milliliters, provides limonene for phase 2 liver detoxification and alkalizing citrate. 1.4 teaspoon, approximately 1.25 g, of food-grade magnesium glycinate powder. The glycinate form crosses the blood-brain barrier and is the preferred cofactor for over 300 enzymatic reactions, including ATP synthase activation. 1.8 teaspoon, approximately 600 milliliters, of organic turmeric powder. Curcumin is a potent NF-κB inhibitor, directly reducing the inflammatory signaling that impairs mitochondrial membrane potential. A single crack of black pepper over the top. Piperine increases curcumin bioavailability by up to 2,000% by inhibiting hepatic first-pass metabolism. Drink this slowly over 5 minutes. Do not eat for 30 minutes afterward. This fasting window allows the magnesium and curcumin to reach intestinal receptors without competing with food-bound binding molecules. Component 2. Vagal nerve activation exercise. Perform twice daily, morning and 60 minutes before sleep. This is a specific breathing pattern that has been clinically validated to increase vagal tone, reduce cortisol output, and shift the autonomic nervous system from sympathetic to parasympathetic dominance. Inhale through the nose for exactly 4 seconds. Hold the breath for 7 seconds. This increases intrathoracic pressure and stimulates the aortic baroreceptors, which signal the brainstem to activate the vagus. Exhale through the mouth with a controlled whoosh sound for exactly 8 seconds. The extended exhale activates the pulmonary stretch receptors that send parasympathetic signals via the vagus nerve. Repeat this cycle 4 times in the morning, 6 times before bed. Do not skip the evening session. Research from the HeartMath Institute demonstrates that vagal tone measured at bedtime is the single strongest predictor of deep, slow-wave sleep quality, which is precisely when mitochondrial repair and ATP resynthesis occur. Component 3. Gut barrier reconstruction. With breakfast, daily. 2 tablespoons, 30 milliliters of organic bone broth, or a 5g serving of powdered collagen peptides dissolved in warm water if broth is unavailable, provides hydroxyproline and glycine, the structural amino acids for tight junction repair. 1 tablespoon, approximately 8 g, of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar in 100 milliliters of water. Acetic acid stimulates gastric acid production, improving protein digestion, and creating the acidic environment that inhibits pathogenic bacterial overgrowth. 1 teaspoon, approximately 2 g, of L-glutamine powder, available in any sports nutrition section. Glutamine is the primary metabolic fuel for enterocytes, the cells that form your intestinal epithelium. Without adequate glutamine, tight junction repair is biochemically impossible. Component 4, circadian light anchoring, non-negotiable. Within 10 minutes of waking, before you look at your phone, before coffee, before anything, you must get outside and expose your eyes to natural morning light for a minimum of 5 minutes, 10 minutes on overcast days. This is not about vitamin D, this is about melanopsin photoreceptors in your retinal ganglion cells. These specialized receptors, when stimulated by the specific spectral profile of morning sunlight, low-angle, high-red, and near-infrared content, send a signal directly to your suprachiasmatic nucleus, the master circadian clock in your hypothalamus. This signal initiates the cortisol awakening response in its proper, healthy form. A sharp, early morning cortisol spike that then declines appropriately through the day, rather than the flat, dysregulated cortisol curve seen in chronically fatigued individuals. You cannot replicate this with a light therapy box. You cannot replicate this by looking through a window. It requires direct outdoor morning light, 5 minutes, every day, non-negotiable. Component 5, mitochondrial cofactor nutrition, with largest meal of the day. A serving of any dark leafy green, 100 grain of spinach, kale, or Swiss chard, provides folate, magnesium, and iron in the cofactor-rich matrix necessary for utilization. 2 Brazil nuts, not more. Each Brazil nut contains approximately 70 and 90 mg of selenium, the mineral required for glutathione peroxidase activity, which protects mitochondrial membranes from oxidative damage. 2 nuts meets the full recommended daily intake. 1 egg, prepared any way, provides the full choline profile necessary for acetylcholine synthesis, mitochondrial membrane phospholipid integrity, and hepatic lipid metabolism. I want to tell you about a patient of mine. I'll call her Mirella. She was 44 years old when she first came to see me, and she had been to 8 different physicians in the preceding 3 years. Mirella was a secondary school teacher, mother of 2, by every external metric, a functioning adult. But she was exhausted in a way that frightened her. Not just tired, she described it as a heaviness that starts behind my eyes and lives in my bones. She had gained 11 pounds in 18 months despite eating carefully. She was waking at 3 a.m. with a racing heart and couldn't get back to sleep. She had lost interest in things that used to light her up. Her blood work, entirely normal. She had been offered antidepressants by 2 separate GPs. A third had suggested she was perimenopausal and recommended HRT. A fourth told her she needed to exercise more. When Mirella came to me, I ran a different set of assessments. Salivary cortisol across 4 time points throughout the day. Organic acids urine test to assess mitochondrial function. A stool analysis with intestinal permeability markers. And what I found told a completely coherent story. Her cortisol awakening response was completely flat, almost non-existent. Her diurnal curve, rather than declining through the day, was elevated in the late evening. Her organic acids showed elevated methylmalonic acid and elevated succinate, markers of impaired mitochondrial complex activity. And her zonulin levels were 3 times the upper reference range, indicating significant intestinal hyperpermeability. Mirella did not have depression. She did not have perimenopause as the primary driver. She had a gut-brain mitochondria axis that had been in crisis for years. Silently, invisibly, without a single blood test to show for it. We implemented a version of this protocol, modified for her specific micronutrient deficiencies. Within 6 weeks, her sleep architecture had normalized. Within 4 months, she had lost 8 of those 11 pounds without intentional caloric restriction. Within 6 months, she told me in our final appointment, "I feel like myself again for the first time in years." Mirella did not need more medication. She needed the right information and the physiological environment to heal. That is always the starting point. Before I give you the final summary, I want to ask you something directly. How old are you right now? Drop your age in the comments below. I read every single one. And here's why I'm asking. The physiology of fatigue is genuinely different at 28 versus 45 versus 67. The mitochondrial mechanisms are similar, but the hormonal context, the gut microbiome composition, the HPA axis sensitivity, these shift meaningfully across the lifespan. When you drop your age in the comments, you help me understand who is watching this channel, and that directly shapes the content I create. If I know that 60% of you are in your 40s and 50s, I will build an entire series on perimenopause and andropause-related mitochondrial decline. If I know I have a significant audience in their 20s and 30s, I will address the specific mechanisms of stress-induced early burnout that are becoming epidemic in that generation. So please, your age in the comments right now. It takes 3 seconds and it genuinely helps. Let me bring this together for you. Here are the 7 key things I need you to take from today's video. Chronic fatigue is predominantly a cellular energy problem, specifically mitochondrial dysfunction, not a sleep quantity problem, not an iron problem, and not a motivation problem. The HPA axis, when chronically dysregulated, actively suppresses mitochondrial biogenesis through PGC1 alpha inhibition. Cortisol management is not optional, it is foundational. The vagus nerve is the biological superhighway between your stress state and your energy state. Vagal tone can be trained daily in under 5 minutes with zero equipment. Gut barrier integrity is non-negotiable for energy recovery. Without tight junction repair, through glutamine, collagen, and acidic gut environment, nutrient absorption remains impaired regardless of diet quality. Morning light exposure within 10 minutes of waking is the single most powerful free intervention for resetting cortisol rhythms and restoring deep sleep architecture. The standard blood panel is not designed to detect mitochondrial dysfunction, vagal tone deficits, or intestinal hyperpermeability. Normal results do not mean you are healthy. They mean you are within the statistical range of a chronically unwell population. The protocol is 5 components: the morning mitochondrial drink, vagal breathing twice daily, gut healing nutrition at breakfast, morning outdoor light anchoring, and mitochondrial cofactor foods with your main meal. And I want to leave you with this. The system we exist inside, the one I described at the beginning of this video, is not going to guide you to the information in this video. It cannot. Its revenue model depends on you remaining a patient, not becoming a graduate. The system profits from treatment. I profit from you not needing me anymore. That is not a philosophical statement. That is the only model of medicine that I can stand behind with integrity. Your body has a profound, documented capacity for self-repair when given the correct physiological inputs. My job is simply to tell you what those inputs are. If this video helped you, share it with someone you love who is exhausted. Not because I need the views, but because that person deserves to know that what they are feeling is not imaginary, it is not inevitable, and it is not permanent. I'll